Greetings, legends and star pals. It is Sarah Knoll and Lindsay Turner with your December 2025 month ahead forecast. Wow, we made it, Sarah. We made it to the end of this year. What do you think about that?
Rounding the bend on the year. Um, let's get through the final stages of the Mercury retrograde and then check in about how we feel about coming to the end of the year.
Okay, that's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
but
Has it been a
yeah,
doozy for you?
well, it's been um I feel like one of the things that we were wondering about November was what uh what a Mercury retrograde cycle involving a sign that Jupiter rules would feel like while Jupiter was exalted. And I would say juice is loose on what Mercury is up to in Sagittarius and Scorpio for me. So, yeah, it just feels like a lot of like revisiting very classic, very literal astrology. Like when Mercury retrogrades and gets any extra juice coming from any direction, it feels like there's just going to be times 10 in terms of like revisiting communication and how we're getting from one place to another and lots of missed connection and revisiting that. And I guess because I teach how to communicate well for a living, it makes sense that I have called it down upon me that all of that revisiting. But what about for you? What's November been like for you?
Yeah, it's been a little, yeah, the typical. I've had to cancel a couple things, or yeah, just misconnections. I mean, the fire signs are in my relational houses, so I've noticed this year during the Mercury retrogrades and the fire signs that things with friends have been funny, like, oh, like everyone's coming over, no, no one's coming over, like just stuff like that.
Ah,
But yeah, this has
hmm
been in my third and my second houses, and I've definitely noticed big themes around writing and writing projects. And okay, I'm gonna, revisit this or reconsider, yeah, the way that I'm writing or what I'm writing. My car has been funny, which I anticipated with a third house. Can concern vehicles. And yeah, and then the second house, a lot of like, where am I putting my money? Does that make sense? I do I really want to be spending XYZ on this service? And so I've been canceling a lot of services. I think
Oh
one of my
yeah, that's great
favorite
retrograde behavior.
yeah. I think one of my favorite expressions of the Mercury retrograde was that I got to do the payouts to the speakers of the Astrologers Co-op conference.
Nice.
It was while Mercury retrograde was opposite Uranus in my second and eighth. So that like revolutionizing quality of like shared resources in the eighth. And I spent basically an entire day doling out $100 payments to 20 people. And I felt like Oprah. I was like, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And it was a literal, like, Mercury was going back to the same degrees that it was in during the Astrologers Co-op conference. So, it can just be as simple as that. With these transits, it can be really fun to be like, oh, but we're back in this zone, and we're doing something
hmm
related to the last time it was here. So yeah, but I would say all in all, it hasn't been, knock on wood, like disastrous. Yeah, and it has been really helpful to reframe Mercury retrogrades or any retrograde as a matter of fact to think about them as a time to re-strategize around the needs
Yes.
that planet's trying to get met. And yeah, so
hmm
I'm really loving that kind of take on it.
I love that too. I love thinking about Jupiter in your 10th, like overseeing all of this distribution of funds. There's something like beautiful about the visual of that to me.
It was super cute. It felt like a new kind of role to take on of like
hmm
a distributor of wealth. Like it just like felt really
Yeah.
nice. So that was a very cool moment for me. Yeah, to have a Mercury retrograde in the second. Yeah. Um, so how about this month coming up? What are we anticipating for December?
Yeah. We are looking at a lot of, well, we're looking at some ingresses and we're looking at a lot of focus between Pisces and Sagittarius. A lot
Yes.
of movement of planets through there. Um, yeah, and our lunations, a lot of mutability. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting way to end. It's gonna be an interesting way for closure in the Gregorian calendar. Of course,
Mm.
astrology doesn't really answer to that, but we sort of arbitrarily have to work with that. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting December, particularly on the heels of November, which was a ton of ingresses and stations. Like
Yeah,
it's busy, high activity November.
super
December
busy.
looks a little, yeah, a little more like pivoting and a little bit quieter of a circumstance.
Yeah, yeah. I think, with all the mutability that's happening in December, right? So major activations of Sag, Pisces, and even Virgo. Really thinking about how we respond and how we react, because that's how I've been really
Yeah.
qualifying the mutable signs lately, is they are responsive. There's
Mm,
stimuli happens, and then you respond or react, and I think that that's like one of the mutable ways, whereas cardinal might like initiate, and fixed kind of
yeah.
sustains. We have this, like, okay, so there's an interesting posture that I think we have to take during all this mutability of being kind of, I don't know, like when I played basketball, we had to always kind of be like down and on our toes and ready to move in any direction. And I think of basketball as a very mutable kind of sport. So yeah, this kind of just be ready for anything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and be flexible, be able to pivot, be able to fall down but make it look on purpose. Is really where we're at, I think.
I love that.
Yeah. So how about any announcements that we have for this month? We will get those out of the way and then just jump right into the forecast. I think our biggest announcement is our Advent astrology devotional. There will be signs, which starts on November 30th. So hopefully I'll have this out on that before on Sunday. But even if you join a day or two late, it's fine. Plenty of people have in the past. But yeah, it's open for registration. You can register at badpastor.me/store. And then there is just a little thing you can click on and sign up. You'll get a daily email with a reflection on an Advent story and, from the Bible, and then also what is the moon doing, the lunar phase and the sign that it's in. You'll also receive a playlist that Sarah and I put together every year where we add a song each day of Advent. Super fun. Um, and then Sarah, what else do we do on Sundays?
On Sundays, we at a particular set time for each week, um, we light our Advent candles together. So part of the emails that we've been sending out to our folks have been about like how to get some candles and make an Advent wreath. Some people have made these before, some people haven't. So if this is your first Advent wreath, on Sunday evenings, late afternoons, evenings, nights, depending on where you are, we all jump on Zoom together and we kind of go through a ritual of candle lighting and we read the writing that we've done for the day. And it's just a chance to sort of connect with each other and form a little community for the season.
It's really sweet. I love seeing everyone's faces. And, I think so many of us exist kind of on the outside of the church, or maybe one foot in, one foot out. And so it is really nice to have a ritual space where we can all come together and honor this season that's so important to the tradition. So, yeah, really, really excited about that. It's our fifth year, which is amazing to me.
Can you believe that?
I actually, it's hard for me to believe. And it feels really cool that we have sustained this practice for this long, and I just love it. Yeah. So, um, My other announcement is that I will be doing a Healing Sagittarius's Wounds 3-part workshop. I've done Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. So next is Sag. I'm really excited about it. It's a 3-part workshop, gently confronting wounds around the universal needs of freedom, discovery, knowledge, space, and celebration. So we all have wounds. We all carry wounds around these needs at various points in our lives being unmet. For some of us, it might be a sort of chronically unmet. And so, what we do in this
Mm,
workshop is we explore the ways in which these needs go unmet, strategies for meeting them, and then also do exercises of self-empathy and empowerment and communal empowerment and empathy in order to transform this wounding and heal it, and to feel more fulfilled. And so the dates that I'm holding these, I had to be a little funky because of the holidays, but we're doing Thursday the 4th and the 11th at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, and then Wednesday the 17th at 3 p.m. Mountain Time because I'm traveling on the 18th, and I'm going to get to see my dear Sarah while I'm traveling. And we are doing our very best to rendezvous for the last candle lighting of Advent together. So that'll be really sweet. It'll be so fun to see you, Sarah.
yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. And then also, lastly, my Empowered Astrology Retreat is in Tucson on January 9th through the 11th in Arizona. Look, if you get the doldrums in January and you want to be on in one of the warmest places in the US, Tucson is where it's at. And also, we're going to have a great time. So stay tuned for emails and updates on my website about the Empowered Astrology Retreat. All right, Sarah. What are our 3 words or phrases for the month of December?
Yeah, so when we look at the astrology, we kind of take it week by week. And lately, we've been picking some theme words. Part of what we want to do as astrologers is invite people into like a spiritual level of reflection for the weeks that they engage. And so the words we came up with for December
Yeah.
are closing time, bubble popped, and sobering up.
Yeah.
I am here.
Sounds really fun, doesn't it? Closing time bubble popped and sobering up. But the reason that we, came up with these phrases is that one of the big things that we're seeing this month is a lot of cycles wrapping up and closing. We're kind of moving out of for the year. I'm thinking particularly Mercury retrograde. Also, the grand water trine is starting to dissipate because
Mhm.
we're getting all these planets moving out of Scorpio. And so that's finishing up. But bubble popped and is probably more about the square that we are seeing between Sagittarius and Pisces, or the multiple squares between Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, and like all of the inner planets in Sagittarius, basically. So, what does it look like to have all these planets in the 2 signs that Jupiter rules that are square one another? And my thoughts on that, Sarah, and I'd be interested in hearing yours too, is that I think of Sagittarius as being a sign that is really concerned with journeying outward, with chasing down something on the horizon, and literally in like either either physically or philosophically, right? Just like chasing something that's out there. Whereas Pisces is really about a journey inward and chasing what's in there, inside. And if you know Sagittarian influenced and Pisces influenced people, I think you'll often see that. I think a lot of Sagittarians that I know are journeyers. They love to travel, they want to go, they want to see new things, explore new places. Whereas Pisces folks are doing that, but kind of in the mind. And they have a whole world, which I think gives them this mm, stereotype of being spacey, but really they're on a journey and it's going inside. And what is the tension that we face both like in the world between those 2 ways of being and within ourselves? And I'm wondering, Sarah, yeah, if you have anything to add to that.
Was thinking about how these two signs they always meet in a square, right? So they're never facing off, they're always meeting at what we sort of talk about sometimes is like an intersection, like when two vehicles pull up to an intersection at the same time and one's got to go, and there's the negotiation that has to happen there. I was thinking about that in terms of going inward and going outward. You can go all over the world and never really attend to what's wounded, thinking about Sagittarian wounds, but like what's hurting or what needs attention inside. And similarly, you could really self reflect, like ad nauseum, and forget to take action, like forget to be out in the world and cultivating relationships and seeing
Mm,
the impact of your inner journey. And so I was thinking about the way that a square between those two signs that Jupiter rules means that we're always needing to be doing kind of both of those things. It's not really a standoff. It's more of like we have to be engaging both of those energies in order for either of them to really come to full fruition. I feel like that's the generative, that's the way that a square is kind of generative for us. We have to have
yeah.
both.
Absolutely. And one really informs the other. They co-inform. I know
Right.
like when I go out into the world and explore something new, which as a Cancerian, challenging for me. I like to be in my comfort zone where I know everything and where my cozies are. But when I am able to get out of my comfort zone and go see something new, I also notice that my inner world changes and develops because of that. And I think that that can also be what Sagittarius is all about. Now, the shadow side, right, is that the two are divorced.
Right.
And we see that too, like people who just go, 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 chasing after something and never finding that kind of inner fulfillment of that
Right.
Piscean, of the Piscean waters. Um, so, yeah, really fun time, I think, to be exploring the relationship between the two. And I'm thinking about it a lot because I'm partnered new, I mean, sort of new. It's been a while now this year with a double Sag, and he loves going on adventures. And I'm like,
Mhm.
lead the way, I'll go too. And it's been really, really rewarding as a Cancerian to have someone who's willing to help me with that. So really cool.
It's energizing, right? Like
Hmm.
Sagittarian energy is often really energizing energy. It like pulls you up and out in this kind of like bright forward kind of way of being.
Yeah, up and out, I think are great directions for Sag. Yeah. Beautiful. All right, well, let's jump into the week by week. So, our first week, we're going to talk about the dates, December 1st through 7th. And Sarah, what are our three words to describe this week?
You're never going to believe this, but the words for the week are appeal, pivot, and retrieval. Is it
Okay.
time now?
Is it time now? Yes, it is. We're doing great. Um, so what it has snuck in, I want to say before this first week of December, is that Venus has moved into Sagittarius the last day of November. So we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about that. Um, but yeah, just kind of immediately this first week, Venus in Sagittarius makes a sextile to Pluto. Um, Early on in the week. I mean, I'm thinking so much of the Epstein files with Venus Pluto contacts, really, really. And yeah, when I think of Venus and Sag, I think of this planet that is trying to strategize for mutuality and justice in a sign whose
Hmm.
essence is freedom and discovery and knowledge and truth, really, truth. So, how do we bring those things into our relating, like whether that's romantic relating or platonic relating or relating with your neighbors? How do we cultivate, yeah, freedom and truth and in our relationships? And yeah, Sarah, do you have any thoughts on Venus and Sag?
Um, Sometimes when we talk about an ingress, we talk about like what is over,
Mm,
in addition to what is beginning. And I think Venus and Sag means Venus and Scorpio time is over. And I think that's the square to Pluto. Venus and Scorpio is Venus having to do a lot of like work in what's under the water, what's under the surface, what maybe has been hidden, what maybe has been
mm,
disregarded, what's being composted. And there's something about any planet, but maybe particularly Venus, in that move from Scorpio and what's under the surface to Sag, which is like goal oriented kind of energy. Like when again, we're kind of in the same theme, like when we pulled something from within, our goal will inevitably change. So I'm thinking about Venus and Sag in on the heels of Venus and Scorpio, which again is always how
Mm,
it happens.
yeah.
That there's direction to Venus based on what they've discovered. And I think about
Yeah.
the Epstein files and this sort of like trickling up to the surface that's sort of happening right now for us collectively, for many. Girls, children, who have been growing up through this whole process and who are pursuing truth and some justice as
Mm,
a result of these things like coming to light. So I
yeah.
like that we get to kind of keep track of Pluto in that square formation when Venus is in Scorpio, and then we can look at the sextile formation when Venus moves into Sag. Is like, how do I work with what's being pulled up from the underworld in a little bit different kind of way?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's such a, I love that. Yeah. Thinking about that movement from these vulnerable waters of Scorpio, where,
Mhm.
we're really negotiating how to be safe with one another. And then kind of being like, all right, we've explored that, and now we're going to move into like how do we move from that place of established safety and security, or not, right, and into this place of kind of open air truth, yeah,
Mhm.
and the pursuit of like something more, than what
Mhm.
than what we were or what we are. Yeah, that's really cool. um Excellent. So, just a couple of days after that ingress of Venus into Sagittarius, we get our full moon in Gemini at 13 degrees of Gemini. I think that this is a pretty loud point in the month. So, the month, I think, kind of starts off with some pretty big bang energy. A full moon in
Mhm.
Sagittarius, or sorry, a full moon in Gemini is always going to be, I think, a bit chaotic because we have the chaos of a full moon in general mixed with this mutable air sign that, wants to do all the things, say all the things, touch all the things, just kind of like, yeah, it's very, very curious and chatty. So I actually think that this can be a really full, or a really fun lunation to, yeah, like have a conversation under, or play a game, or just doing something
Mm.
that's really lively. But there are some really interesting signatures in this chart. And Sarah, I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about what we discovered when we were looking at this chart.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're aware of, we always look at what we might call the ruler of the lunation, like what planet rules the sign where this lunation is taking place. And so we're talking about Mercury ruling Gemini, and what we've been following for all of November is Mercury doing this final of the year, final retrograde cycle in a fire sign. So it's coming out of that. Mercury's recently stationed direct, which means Mercury has some power built up and it has some forward momentum built up. And so that's the kind of energy that's like ruling over the lunation.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the kickoff. And I think that's a pretty big like tone casting thing for the full moon.
Yeah, we're chatting, but we're chatting about the subterranean, yeah, secrets and yeah,
Yeah, like what we've been
information.
learning.
Yeah, under that Mercury retrograde in Sag and Scorpio. Yeah, and that Mercury is forming another grand water trine with Saturn and Jupiter. And so yeah, we're still in these waters that really intensely marked, October, especially the end of October and the entire month of November. Just super emotional, fluid kind of material. And so, yeah, that it's kind of a strange one, I think, where we have the fun chatty energy of Gemini, but it's like, what are we talking about? What's coming up? Yeah, really, really wild. Anything else around this chart in particular?
One of the things we noticed when we looked at it is that Saturn can sort of see everybody. So we talk about like planets being able to see each other when they're not right next to each other or when they're not right across and next to each other. And so it matters like what planets are interacting when there's a full
Hmm.
moon, like what things are getting like lit up just by the way that they're in aspect to each other. And one of the things we noticed was like Saturn can see everybody, even the planets that are not aspected by the full moon, the sun and the moon opposite each other in the chart. Saturn can see it all. And so I I think a part of December for me and maybe for some of the rest of us is about watching Saturn do this final going back and sweep through the end of Pisces. Like we've had a taste of what Saturn in Aries maybe is gonna feel like for us. It stationed retrograde, pulled us back into this Pisces story. I mean, the story of Saturn in a particular sign is always a big story. And so I feel like Saturn being able to sort of connect everybody, like Saturn being the connector is a different thing than like Mercury being the connector or Venus being the connector or Jupiter. When Saturn's the connector, there's a sort of like a seriousness maybe
Hmm.
that comes, like a clarity or simplicity or like a desire for those things that comes with Saturn. So that's another big thing that we kind of noticed when we were looking at this.
Yeah, it does seem like this full moon is going to signal what Saturn has accomplished in Pisces, for better
Yeah.
or worse, individually and collectively, this sort of restructuring of the inner life, restructuring of, especially there with Neptune, of what we think is real. I'm thinking a lot about AI, illusion, delusion.
Mm,
Um, yeah, really, really interesting stuff for, I'm thinking about God, this really interesting, terrifying reveal of, I don't know if you heard this, but Twitter X did an update where when people would log on, it would show you where in the world they were logging on from. And the Homeland Security account was in Tel Aviv, and all of these far right accounts were in other countries. And so, yeah, I just think of this going back to the like bubble popping theme that we were talking about for the month, of the, Sag square to this Saturn and Pisces is like, what's really real? What have we been led to believe that's real that we are learning, in fact, is not? And that's kind of,
hmm.
it's a little scary. But also sobering, right? Like sobering up, our other
Yes.
theme for the month. And this full moon chart really also captures the applying square between Mars and Saturn, which we'll talk about because that goes exact just a few days after this full moon. Um, I also wanted to mention that this chart activates a lot of Donald Trump's natal placements, like within a
Yeah.
degree or two. He has a Sun Gemini full moon in his chart. It's just the opposite of this one because he's a Gemini sun. He has what is it? A Venus Saturn conjunction in Cancer that Jupiter is lighting up. There's quite a bit of activation around his natal chart. So I think it'll be interesting to see what goes on with him and the in the news this month. Um, I wanted to read my quilted oracle, if you'll recall, last month. I just wanted to go back as part of my Mercury retrograde in the third, go back and revisit some old writing that I did where I came up with symbols for each of the new full and quarter moons of the whole year. So 52 symbols, or maybe it's 48 symbols. And the symbol that I came up with for the full moon in Gemini is scroll, like a scroll of paper. Scroll reminds us there are magic words. The words we speak have power, and now is a time to remember the poem, song, prayer, spell, or incantation that will best serve you in this moment. Speak over yourself and your situation and know that your speech has power. And so I wonder how we'll see this theme of speech having power showing up under this new moon. Or full moon. I'm kind of excited about it.
I think that's beautiful. It makes me think again about how Mercury goes through retrograde cycles in a particular element. And this is wrapping up Mercury's time in in fire, doing
Yeah.
retrogrades in fire all year long. So I love this image of thinking about like my words are powerful. Like the spirit is moving through my words. So I want to take that really seriously and think about like coming from all the revisiting of like my spirit and my power this year. Like, what do I have to say? I think that's a
Mm.
beautiful way of thinking about this.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. Thank you. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about this week and this lunation in particular is that this is the last of the grand water trine that we're getting, the last kind of iteration of it, because all of the inner planets hit that grand water trine. Um, and Mercury is the last, but I looked ahead to 2026 and I saw that all of the Mercury retrograde stations next year are in water signs and they're in late water signs. So these same
Hmm.
points are getting activated throughout the year next year. So we might notice that things that really came out in the wash, so to speak, in October, November, December this year get kind of, yeah, thrown back into the mix over the three water retrograde cycles next year. So I thought that
Mm,
was just
I'm
a
so glad you
cool,
noticed that.
yeah, cool discovery. All right, let's move on to the second week of December, the 8th through the 14th. And Sarah, tell us our three words or phrases to describe the week.
All right. So I couldn't decide between last call and take the check, but I want, for me, it's like something that involves like, you got to go. So you got to like make sure you got all your shit together because you got to go. And we also have explosive and Delulu.
It sounds
So I'm
fun.
looking forward to talking. It does. Well, it sounds like you're kind of fun. I want to join you. If you're having fun in this situation, I know I will, but I need to be with you in order to have this fun.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Um, so the 8th, right, just starting this week off, that Mars in Sagittarius square to Saturn in Pisces does go exact at 25 degrees of both signs. And that square, it's what we call the closing square. So it mimics the last quarter moon phase. And Sarah, what do you, I know you loved, I love to like turn to you to talk about the last quarter moon phase because I think you do it so well.
Mm. Thanks. I've learned it from just great astrologers. But yeah, the last quarter moon phase, or like a closing square, in other words, two planets who've been kind of doing a little dance and they're going to kind of end that and start something new. The last quarter of anything, of any cycle, I think is the time to sort of say, okay, what do we have to let go of? Like,
Hmm.
we may have set some intentions at the beginning of the cycle or developed a sort of idea or a dream that we nurtured, a plan, a hope, a goal. And at the full or opposition or the full moon kind of stage of whatever those two planets are in conversation is like where we see like the fruition of this thing that we've been dreaming. And the last quarter means we're waning or we're coming to the close of it. And that's a really important time to grieve. I think culturally we
Mm,
don't necessarily sanction or ritualize grief collectively or universally. But as humans, we have a need to also let go of the things that we planted and didn't grow like we thought they were going to, or the idea
mm,
that we had that sort of turned into something that we weren't expecting. And sometimes those things are like, oh, thank God I didn't get my dream because this other thing happened and it was so amazing. And sometimes it's like, oof, it wasn't meant for this time. And I need a
yeah,
place to just kind of be sad and disappointed about that. So I think
yeah,
last quarters of anything or closing squares of anything are time to grieve and let
yeah,
go.
yeah. Or things that we had that were wonderful that we lost. Um, and yeah, I think this week, because we also have the last quarter moon in Virgo, is really marked by this like, and Neptune is stationing direct on the 10th. So it is this, yeah, I think it's a nostalgic, poignant week. And I think especially with the holiday coming up right at this point, like mid-month, I know for me, a lot of my greatest disappointments kind of resurface often right before the
Mm,
Christmas season. Just, the loss I've experienced in family or friends, or, thinking back on the year and what happened, and, what didn't go right. And it can be a rough one. So I do think
mhm.
yeah, there's a definite last call, take the check, like, like time to pack your bags and go, moment this week. And I think that we can refer back to the Mars Saturn conjunction, which happened a while ago. It was in April 2024 at 14 degrees Pisces. And that conjunction was captured, if you'll recall, in that solar eclipse we had in Aries on April 8th.
Oh my
It
God,
was
that's right.
applying. And that April time period, I remember politically, like things were getting really bad in Rafa. Um, and, I can also track some really big things happening in my own life, like rumblings that month in my own life. And one of the things I think can be helpful instead of just fear mongering, because let's face it, these are the malefics forming a square with one another, um, is to think about the houses in your chart that are ruled by Mars and ruled by Saturn, right? So the Aries Scorpio places and the Capricorn Aquarius places, and think about, like, how are those places relating to each other, and what kind of cycle have they been in since April 2024 that is now time to process, grieve, kind of put to bed. And yeah, and I know for me that speaks very loudly to what's been going on in my life, particularly around partnerships and housing, and Saturn and
I was
Mars.
just thinking the ankles, especially, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
cardinals, yeah. Whoo. But also for fixed signs, right? Because we get the
Yeah.
Scorpio Aquarius stuff too. So yeah, if you have a fixed or cardinal
Yeah.
rising sign, this might be a big one
Hmm.
to think about. Yeah. Anything else on that square, Sarah?
On the Mars Saturn square?
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good way of covering it. I
Yeah.
think I think those invitations to go back, whether or not, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I want to say when we're recording these, like, we have people who listen to our forecasts who are not professional astrologers, who are people who are like, tell me something to think about for this coming week. Tell me, like, when I'm packing up stuff at work and I'm headed back to like family of origin, like, how can I frame this for myself? And so, like, this second week, I think this invitation is to really, like, if you have a chance, if you have a way, to just carve out like a 30 minutes to think about those parts of your chart that Lindsay just said, and give yourself the chance to like write a little conclusion about like
Mm,
what conclusion you're coming to from those parts of your life. I think that can be time well spent, especially this time of year. It's always a good thing, but especially this time of year, I think that kind of contemplation can really change the way we go into a new year too.
yeah. And particularly, even if you're not that familiar with the houses and stuff in your chart yet, thinking about, I don't know, I think of a kind of a hero's journey between Mars and Saturn, of like
Mhm.
the Saturn as being like a big obstacle or a big structure, and
Yeah.
Mars trying to kind of like chip away and break through that, and fight and move through that, and what is the relationship between, yeah, maybe like a major structure that you've been trying to break through the last year and a half, or yeah, or something that you have been trying to establish and create structure around, despite things coming and knocking it down, right? Or piercing it,
Hmm.
popping your bubble, so to speak. So yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for bringing it into that practical realm. Yeah. So on the 10th, Neptune stations direct at 29 degrees and 22 arc minutes of Pisces. It's going to start heading back into Aries, which will happen on January 28th. So it's a real farewell moment to Neptune and Pisces. As I was looking back at Neptune and Pisces, I noticed, and I think this is so sweet, probably too sweet for your taste, Sarah, but that when Neptune transited my Jupiter is when I met and started working with Sarah. And I think that that is such a cool thing because it's this, yeah, Piscean like faith expression. And Sarah has really been a Jupiterian figure in that way for me, of someone coming in who has like helped comfort and renew my sense of faith. So thank you, my friend. That's my sort of fond farewell to Neptune and Pisces, and the gifts that it's given me in the face of yeah, a lot of really difficult church experiences, which might be that sixth house part piece of it for me.
Mhm. Well, in my eighth house of death, I also think about like how, I don't know, there was like a lot of grief that brought us together,
Yeah.
and ended up being like a seed for like wanting to invite and host and hold um, collective grief that was happening inside of a bunch of individuals that were already crossing our paths and would come to cross our paths because we said we were going to do things like write an astrology devotional for the season of Advent, because both of those
Mm,
seasons, Sagittarius and Advent, were important to us, and they go together and they're supposed to go together, and
mm,
it's we don't even have to force it. And that feels so similar to our relationship. There
mm.
was nothing that had to be forced. It fell into place. That feels really Piscean, like when something just works and you don't even really
Kismet.
know why. That feels like Neptune. And so I was gonna say, like, is it just me, or have we been saying goodbye to fucking Neptune and Pisces forever? But it is because we have been. We have been. And so that nostalgia that often gets associated with this, planet placement and sign, I think it just feels like it feels beautiful and heavy, and it does feel like it is like the kind of Midwestern goodbye that is so part
Lex
of my
boundaries.
childhood, where it's like we start hugging in the kitchen, then we pack leftovers and we hug some more, and then we're in the living room and we're pointing out all the stuff, and we, oh my God, when are we going to see each other again? And then we get to the entryway and we're kissing, and then we walk out to the front porch, and then we're down the driveway and get you in the car and shut the door for you and kiss you through the window. That's
Then
what
chase you
Neptune
down the
and
street.
stationing, the whole thing, and like don't go inside until you can't see them anymore. It's like that feels like Neptune stationing direct in Pisces at 29:22. Like, okay, we get it. It's
We
time to go.
That's so funny. Yeah. And I love that it's happening while in the middle of Advent, writing our fifth devotional, which we're like, we can't believe
Yeah.
it. And it does feel like a real landmark moment for us. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's super fun. At the same time, on the same day, we have Mercury and Scorpio direct opposing Uranus and Taurus at 28 degrees. And I feel like this is another epilogue moment, right? We're having all the this again, it's closing time. Um Epilogue moments of like, okay, Uranus has come back into Taurus. It's
Yes.
maybe trying to close up a chapter, but Uranus likes to do things in an opposite way that we expect. So maybe closing up a
It's
chapter looks
right.
like opening up a new thing. Who knows? It's a jump scare
Boom.
moment. Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
jump scare transit, I think. Yeah, so as we have this like lingering boundaryless planet stationing in Pisces, we've got something like breaking news, la 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 la. This is always fucking breaking news. Mercury opposite Uranus. It's always breaking news. Always, always, always. We can guarantee it at this point that there will be some breaking news that is very, very surprising, or shocking,
Yes.
around or on the 10th. Typically, it's like the day before or the day of.
Uranus is retrograde right now, right? And
Yes.
so it's like going backwards through the sign and revisiting all of the shit that we dealt with Uranus and Taurus.
Hmm.
And yeah, oof, it's just not breaking news I'm super looking forward to personally, but
Yeah, it might be a little strange. Okay. Well, that opposition is captured by our last quarter moon in Virgo, which I wanted to read my symbol for, which is broom. Broom is here to remind us to practice our hygiene, whether that is spiritual or physical. Cleaning up helps us integrate lessons, feel more at peace, and create space. A powerful magic symbol, broom enables us to fly by keeping the ground neat and tidy. What could use a deep clean in this situation? And I feel like that is a little bit too apt for a Mercury and Scorpio
Seriously.
opposite Uranus and Taurus moment.
And all of these planetary cycles or planetary movements through signs in these late degrees. I mean, for people who are looking at a chart of like just the current sky around this time, like things are just in late places and they have been. So yeah, the broom is like we're literally sweeping the bar out. Like you gotta go. Like you gotta what are you still doing here? Like, get it in the dustpan, get it in the trash, and get the fuck out.
That's such a good point, though, that, yeah, I mean, after having worked in a few restaurants, like the last thing you do at the end of the shift is sweep the damn floor.
Sweep.
Like
That's right.
it's the final act, and it is it's like this moment of relief when you're sweeping the floor because you're like,
Yes.
it's all over.
It's
And
almost
when I
over.
come back
Exactly.
tomorrow, it'll be reset and clean. And so, yeah, that is, I think this last quarter moon, literally sweep the floor. Like, just see what it feels like to literally sweep the floor. And then if you want to take it into the metaphorical realm, right? Like, just what needs cleaning up, what needs organizing that will both, help you feel that something is settled, help you process it, and help you prepare for something new.
If people are coming to the end of the calendar year and they're looking for like what might be a good time according to astrology, what might be a good time to sort of do a year end kind of reflection, I think last quarter in Virgo would be a great time to
Hmm.
sort of take in whatever the breaking news has been and be like, I'm going to be around this corner doing a little journaling and
Yeah,
really just like open up your year and look at like, that's another way of sweeping the floor. It's like,
yeah.
look at the sort of leftovers of the year and like, where do you want to put them? Like, how do you want to reflect on them? What's the meaning you want to make of them? Yeah,
I
this
love
tickles
that.
my Virgo placement for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, that association with writing and recording, with, the Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, makes a lot of sense. Yes. All right, so the week wraps up with Mercury moving into Sagittarius, which feels like I don't know, not necessarily any type of relief, other than it moves from the intensity of Scorpio into the like, oops, I did it again vibes of Mercury and Sag.
But coming out of this of the retrograde cycle, it maybe has some new lessons that it's integrating, and so maybe Mercury going into Sag again has some direction from
Let's
revisiting whatever it had to revisit.
let us
Is that too
pray.
optimistic?
Let us pray. Um, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the following week, I think, if we can be optimistic about that or not. But we end this week on the 14th with Mars squaring Neptune. I think, for me personally, of all the yikesy transits that happen this month, this is the yikesiest for me, if that can be a word. um,
Yeah.
not just because it's Mars square Neptune, which I've heard Austin Coppock describe as the fog of war, but
Yeah. Yeah.
because these planets are anaretic, meaning they are at the
Yes.
final degree of a sign where they have built up all this energy, they're ready to kapow. And those areas of each sign are always ruled by malefics when we look at what's called the terms or the bounds of a sign. So, uh, we have noticed, Sarah, you and I, that whenever Mars is at the final degree of a sign, it means trouble.
Duck.
Duck and cover.
This-
I do not like
Ah.
this. And I don't have a ton of like I mean, my best interpretation, right, is that this is a like bad guys go down under this square,
Mm,
right? Is that there is something, a bubble is popped, right? Some sort of delusion or illusion of Neptune and Pisces. Mars in Sag is like, guess what? Bloop! Like, but it's clean up on aisle 9 for sure. Like no one gets
yeah.
out of that unscathed.
Yep. I think that's right.
All
Yeah,
right.
Mars is always just doing the most right before they leave, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
dropping a turd right before they leave. Bye. That's
And
what
in
it's feeling. It's like, oh
Sagittarius,
my God,
which is, yeah, that sign of the horse, they literally shit everywhere.
just shit in the street. None of those beautiful leather diapers, that they put on horses in parades. It's just free flowing, free
Leather.
balling, anoretic Mars and Sag.
God, and we thought Virgo had bowel issues, right? Like maybe it's really Sag.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
interesting, right? And following
it is.
Scorpio.
It
We could
is.
probably do some dreaming on that.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. It's like now we just shit anywhere we want.
I was gonna say it's like diarrhea. It's like explosive diarrhea is what Sagittarius, Mars and Sag.
The poop in each of the signs, right? But we could do a whole we could do a
Why
carousel
are
on
we here?
Instagram. I
What's
don't know.
happening?
It's still Scorpio. It's Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. We're talking about poop on the fucking
That's true.
podcast.
That's true.
Okay. We're pulling it together and we're moving into the
We're here.
third
We're
week
professionals.
of December because we're pros at this. December 15th
Oh,
through
and look at the words
which
inviting
one
us
I
to
know.
serious. The words for the third week: resolve, fit check, and efficiency. Look at this, like clean up your attitude. I feel like sitting up straight just reading those words.
I know, but I want to make a note that it's efficiency with a question
Question
mark.
mark?
It's like it might not
I
be
know, I'm
like
looking forward to that
efficiency.
one.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
efficiency. Well, and I say that because let's start. We're starting off with a bang. Mars moves into Capricorn on the 15th. I am I'm not going to say I'm thrilled because you're right. You clocked me when I said I was excited about Mars and Scorpio. I thought I thought that having the return of the ruler of my second house meant I was going to become a millionaire that month, and I didn't. So, you were
You
right to
didn't.
clock me. In fact, I indeed lost a lot of money during Mars and
No
Scorpio.
part.
Um yeah, there were like so many cancellations. I'm also blaming Mercury that I lost quite a bit of
Yeah.
planned income. So, okay. I'm not going to be like rah rah Mars and Cap, but it is my natal placement. I do find
Hmm.
that during my Mars return, especially because it's in my fourth house of home and family, is when I'm often making major, massive improvements to my home. And I actually really
Mm,
enjoy that. And it only happens every 2 years. So
yeah.
here we are. My slogan for exalted Mars and Capricorn is I don't have time for that.
I love it.
I just don't have time for that. Um, Now, in my case, my Mars is retrograde, so the things I don't have time for are like gender, uh, typical expressions of family. You know, uh, it makes me kind of a weirdo, I think. Whereas maybe someone who has like a direct Mars and Capricorn might not have time for, you know, wasting their time that they're putting into their work or something like that. So, yeah, treat that how you will. Do you have any other thoughts on Mars and Capricorn, Sarah?
I always like to, when you talk about like a planet exalted, like it's sort of like almost like vacation level abilities to do
Mm,
stuff because there's nothing else in your way.
hmm
So I think about Mars and Capricorn, it's Mars and Saturn's home sign. It means that that kind of sprawling chaos monster that Mars can kind of be sometimes gets a lot of structure. from
Mm-hmm.
being in Saturn's home. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's when like that ambition and direction and agential power that Mars has to like initiate and go after stuff is it can be it have some of that order. So I don't have time for that is a great way of talking about it, and just like being able to set your goal and do your goal and like work your plan and not let the distractions in feels like what the promise of Mars in Capricorn.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great transit for getting shit done. I mean, use it. This is mwah. I mean, I just think it's yeah, use it. And it really is, and I experienced this in my nativity, which is it's disgusting, frankly, is first try success is and that is something that has like marked my life, and it's dumb
Mm.
stuff. When I was a kid, I remember in second grade we all lined up to shoot a basketball for the first time during gym class, and I got like nothing but net on the first try. And that is so that's Mars and Capricorn, right? Like most of the second graders couldn't even like hit the backboard, and I was like whoosh, hook shot. Yeah, or like shooting an arrow for the first time and getting a bullseye. These are real life experiences that I have had,
Mm.
and it is, it's both my lucky star and also the bane of my existence, for
Yeah.
many, many reasons, that I won't get into outside of a therapeutic context. But I don't have time for that. We don't have time for that.
We don't have
Okay.
time for that.
So that's my like efficiency. But then my like efficiency is that we are dealing with Mercury and Sagittarius, which is
Yes.
not an efficient um transit at all, really. On the 16th, Mercury does leave that 6-degree mark where it's stationed retrograde. So it's leaving, it's like the shadow, the post retrograde shadow is what we call it. Um, and so there is some resolution around that Mercury retrograde story, I think. But Mercury in Sag is silly. Yeah, it says the quiet part out loud, and we love it for that. And we love our Mercury and Sag folks for saying the quiet part out loud because we need that. But it's not known for tact.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like direct kind of uh engagement of things. So on the 16th, that same day, we get the sun square Saturn, somber, sober moment, right? Again, activating this Sag Pisces square. And then on the 19th, we get our new moon in Sagittarius at 28 degrees. And why don't we pull that chart here? And what I think is nice about this new moon in Sag is that it is conjunct Venus, which I think gives it a bit of a benefic quality, even though Venus is applying to a square to Saturn. But we'll say, this is like good news, bad news, good news, bad news. The bad news is the square to Saturn. The good news is that it's an overcoming square to Saturn. Like Venus is in the power position here. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I like that. Mercury is direct, even though it's in exile. This moon is being ruled by an exalted Jupiter. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's retrograde. The bad news is that it's in a sign that can't see Sagittarius. So it's sort of like having a benefactor that you're just completely out of touch with and you hope is doing good in the world somewhere. Um, and also, right, we have an exalted Mars in this chart who is no longer opposing or squaring Saturn, or, any of that nonsense. So, this might be a kind of fresh start feeling new moon. I don't know, Sarah, any other thoughts on this chart?
On the new moon, it for me is one of the last four things we've talked about that gave me the word resolve, because it's like, okay, we're gonna start new and we're gonna move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So we're out of retrograde shadow. Mars is into Capricorn, where it's got juice for forward, organized forward movement, the march forward. hopefully for good reasons. And we've got a new moon where we're being invited to sort of think about what do we want to do next.
Yeah.
Again, a new moon in Sagittarius captures the Sagittarian energy of like the hunter, the
Mm.
pursuer, you know?
Hmm.
And so what would we like to pursue
Yeah.
coming out of the new moon? And again, this is around the time that people might be traveling or might be beginning to host travelers. This is
Mm.
often a time of like kind of bustling around. And so this could be a time to think like, what am I starting here? Like, what am I starting now?
Mm.
What is starting around me? And how do I want to interact with this kind of new chapter that we're in?
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I know I'll be traveling the night before, and yeah, it's a third house activation for me, so that's cool. And to see my family, so that's that Mars in the fourth.
And I'm going to pick up my baby from
Oh,
college. So it's
baby
also a good new moon
beluga.
in the fifth for me.
So sweet. Yeah. So my symbol for the new moon in Sagittarius is candle. Light a match. Candle is here to show you its many ways, holding vigil, creating an atmosphere, rescuing from the darkness of a power outage. Something about the flickering light creates a sense of safety in the mystery. What small thing is lighting the way for you right now? Candle asks you to locate your hope in the darkness.
Well, damn.
There we are. And
We
that's
should
and
light
that's
a candle
Advent
or
too.
something.
Oh, I know. We should. We should light some candles. We're gonna. Um, all right. So the sun squares Neptune on the 20th. That can be kind of I don't know, an idealistic or kind of dazed or delusional moment. I'm actually going because my cousin is graduating from undergrad at age 40. She finished her degree. And so that Sun Square Neptune is that moment of like her hard work achieving this ideal of getting her degree. She's a mom of two, so I'm really proud of her. So that's fun. And that same day, we get Venus squaring Saturn from Sagittarius into Pisces, but at 25 degrees. And again, this is a last quarter moon kind of phase. It's the closing square between Venus and Saturn. And if you'll recall, the new moon moment between Venus and Saturn, when they conjoined, was actually threefold last year. They had three conjunctions because Venus went retrograde in the signs of Aries and Pisces. So the first conjunction was January 19th. And then we had two more in pretty quick succession in April 6th and 25th. So the Venus Saturn conjunction, I think, was a very big energetic signature of this year. So again, there's just all this activation of the late water signs, particularly late Pisces right now, to think about. And so, yeah, what to think about, what's been the story since early this year between love and relationships and the structures and restructuring of our inner worlds. And whew, man, when I pose that question to myself, I'm like, amazing. My inner world has changed so much this year, and it has been reflected in the relationships that I've begun and continued to cultivate in some really exciting ways. So, yeah, Sarah, do you have any thoughts on the Venus square Saturn transit?
For me, I really thought of like looking in the mirror and checking if how my fit is. I really did think of fit check here. I thought of like,
Mm.
okay, do I have what I need? Have I been gathering what I need from this story? I think of Venus and Saturn interacting in a kind of like um, adornment for a purpose. We talked about
Ooh.
like flowers for a funeral are different from just like, oh, you know what? I'm spontaneously going to get flowers and put them on my table because it makes the room pretty. Like we're talking about the things that Venus does for a really important reason in our lives. And I
Mm.
that made me think about like a self check towards the end of the year where I look and I say, like, is what I have put on for myself, is what I have used to adorn and protect myself, is that really what I need? So that's what I
Mm.
thought about when I thought about this Venus Sag uh, Saturn Pisces square.
I love thinking about adornment for a purpose. And again, I'm thinking about what I'll be doing at this time, which is attending my cousin's graduation. And that's been a long time coming, right? Which really feels very
Mhm.
Saturnian. And the cap and gown of
Yeah.
graduation, right? And if if you've ever been, most of us have either been to our own commencement ceremony or someone else's commencement ceremony. There is a somberness and a sobriety to this moment of celebration. And I think that, yeah, that really captures this square of like, I think Sag loves to celebrate, right? I mean, we have the biggest feast of
Yes.
the year in the United States, traditionally during Sagittarius season of, Thanksgiving. It's moving us into the holiday season where we're eating a lot, we're having a lot of fun, we're drinking a lot. Eat, drink, be merry, right? Um, and then this like Saturn and Pisces, because you have worked so hard to change your inner landscapes. It's beautiful. I
We
don't
may
know. It's like
celebrate.
really, really
Yeah.
poetic. So yeah, it again, sobriety, somberness, it comes up again, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's just the vibe.
Yeah, there's clarity that comes with sobriety for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So the 21st, the sun moves into Capricorn. So we get Capricorn season, we get winter solstice. This is a cardinal earth sign. It is the sea goat. So many cool mythologies to explore there. And this ingress of the sun into Capricorn both marks the darkest, longest night of the year, but also the moment when the sun and the light begins to return and the days start getting longer again. Sarah, what is special about Capricorn season to you?
Well, as a super solar person, what I notice about Sun in Capricorn and its following sign in Aquarius, when the sun is in places ruled by Saturn, it feels like the sun has to learn some tough lessons, right? Like
Mm,
we have the least access to the sun's like warmth and radiance and also burning tendencies, right? We get a little relief from the way the sun can scorch. Certainly, we're unlikely to be scorched by the sun in these Saturn seasons, Saturn ruled seasons. Um, yeah, I think I notice a chance to sort of like rest for the solar parts of our lives and sort of be rejuvenated and kind of come
mm,
back from the darkness, just like you were talking
mm.
about. It's like the
Yeah.
darkest point, but that's also when we start to get the light again. So, what do we want light to be like for us in the coming season
Mm.
months?
I love that. I remember a friend of mine many years ago when we were in New York, when I was in seminary, and she is a double Capricorn, sun and rising, um, and I was getting seasonal depression, and she looked at me and she said, "Lindsay, you got to be the queen of the night." And I
Oh
just,
my gosh.
when someone says something like that to you and you just never forget it. And ever since then, I have wondered, in my own genderless way of what does it mean to be the queen of the night, right? What does
Yeah.
it mean to rule over one's own darkness and the power of one's own generativity and this place of deep, deep rest and quiet and mystery and yeah, potential. So
Hmm.
that's what I think is really special about Capricorn season and this yeah, like resolving to move with power and presence through the darkness. Neat.
Beautiful. Yeah.
With that, let us move into our final week of December, which there's not a whole lot going on astrologically. Um, and what are our words of the week, Sarah?
We have wobble, we have gaze, and we're just going to continue our theme of sobriety here. Maybe a little bit
Yes.
of a feeling of waking up after the big party and going, what happened in here?
Yeah, the wobbly morning after, exactly. And it's gaze, Gaze, not Gays, although that's always the theme. of
Always
the
welcome
week.
and always a sub theme of whatever we've decided.
The gays. Yeah, wonderful. So the 23rd, right, we get Venus in Sagittarius square Neptune in Pisces. So um my question for reflection for that is how does the pursuit of honest relationships, right? Because we're at the very end of Venus's transit through Sagittarius. How does a pursuit of honest relationships square with how reality is being obscured right now?
This
I
is
think that'll be a
so
very
good.
big question for us collectively and maybe personally as well. Like if we want open honesty and we get all these discoveries this month of, like Mars square Saturn, Mercury opposite Uranus, right? Mars square Neptune, that kind of stuff. How do we go about returning to honesty? Those are my thoughts on that square. What about you, Sarah?
Again, you are likely to be gathering in some way with people or really feeling the absence of gathering with people. And so
Mm,
I'm thinking about how no matter what your literal relational dynamic is, as you come to the 23rd of December, just a couple of
mhm,
days from actual Christmas Day.
mm,
Again, whatever your spiritual tradition, this is a holiday in the US. And so you're likely to feel the feeling of it all around you, the consumerist side of it screaming at you, if nothing else. My guess is it's in my experience, when we're gathering with old relationships, new relationships, or no relationships, we're often thinking about exactly the theme you've lifted up. Like, it can be difficult to sort of have clarity. Like, this is where I
mm,
thought I was, and now I'm with all these people. And, like, if it's your family of origin, you're like, they really just see me as I've always been. Like, all the changes that have been taking place in me are difficult for them to see. And it's
mm,
sometimes hard in that moment to realize those people that we've gathered with, they've been changing too. Like they are
mm.
also not the static version of themselves that you remember. And
Oh,
so I just
interesting.
think about Neptune as place holding the sort of obscurity that comes relationally when we're doing the gathering, regathering, or just not gathering with people that have known us for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's really powerful to think about. Yeah, because there is something about family that reflects who you always are and like kind of can't somehow reflect who you are now, but both are true. And so it's like, which
Yes.
is it? I feel like, yeah, the square adds some tension, but also
Mm-hmm.
generativity here. I'm also thinking just very practically that this could be a very fun night to like watch your favorite Christmas movie if you have one, if you celebrate Christmas.
Yes.
Go to a carol sing. Like just do something artful and nostalgic. And I just think that there might be like a poignancy to it, like maybe a little bit of pain buried in there somewhere because of the square, but it might just be a really lovely time to engage some art, some mystery, some mysticism. Yeah. Because on the 24th, Christmas Eve, Venus moves into Capricorn. And I
I
wrote
want
in
you to
our
talk
notes,
about this one. Yeah.
Merry Christmas, LOL. It's more serious. Yeah. That movement from Venus, yeah, from Sagittarius into Capricorn it's more serious. So, get your partying in before the 24th, I guess.
Do it. Do it. I mean, we're fresh into cap season in general. Mars is already there, irritating us even a little bit, if not a lot. So yeah, Venus coming on the scene. I don't know. Maybe like like the sister you were really hoping would show up, and you're sort of like, oh my God, thank God you're here. This place is kind
Oh.
of lame. And just like, sister, what shall we do with what we have? Look around, you know? Yeah, I just wonder what Venus will do arriving on the scene of Capricorn.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it could also bring a lot of organization to, whatever the holiday entails for you. So that could be nice. I'm not
Mhm.
dogging on Venus and Cap. It's just kind of a funny transition on Christmas Eve to make
Yeah,
very
for like a big
stark.
party day. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very stark. So then, we get Christmas, and then a few days after that, the moon makes its first quarter in Aries at 6 degrees. And my symbol for this, I think very appropriately, is hearth. Hearth appears, oh my God, that's so funny because my space heater, which is like a hearth,
A
just
hearth.
overheated. It just
Hmm.
overheated and was like, right when I was about to read this poetic thing. So thank you for that, Mercury. Okay, first quarter in Aries is Hearth. Hearth appears to remind you of the heart of the matter. Upon what foundations do the sparks of your desire flash and flicker? The hearth is the place that sustains the entire home. It warms and provides the cooking fire. Hearth reminds us to focus on the ideas, passions, and new beginnings that will lead to the warmth and feeding of the inner world. So I
Mm.
think I don't know, it's kind of a nice quarter moon to end the year on. Um, and then or do you want to say anything about that, Sarah? I just started talking about Aries and just mowing everyone over.
Good. This might be good for if those who do set resolutions or choose a word of the year. This may be a good lunation to do some of that, like thinking about what you
Mm,
want the coming year to be like, what you want to accomplish.
yeah.
A lunation in Aries could be a good place for that.
I like that. Yeah. All right. And then our final transit of the year, we are wrapping it up, is on the 30th. Mercury in Sagittarius square Saturn in Pisces. Um, this does feel kind of serious, kind of somber, maybe I'm intention setting, maybe a little delulu with Mercury in Sag. I'm not sure. In my notes, I have that saying the quiet part out loud, right? Maybe kills the vibe. So there might just be a little bit of a vibe killer on this day. Um, and these are Jupiter signs, of course, so the exaltation might mean that whatever kills the vibe is like ultimately for good. But I don't know.
Mm.
This just seems kind of like a wah wah kind of moment at the end of the year. I don't know. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, Saturn is trine Jupiter by sign still here. I wonder if maybe this is about having the urge to say something in the wake of the holiday season and deciding not to.
Oh,
Like, I wonder
interesting.
about the possibility of like the restraint that maybe could come from a Saturn who can see
Mm,
Jupiter.
mm-hmm.
Just
Like, you
a
better not.
little bit of restraint exercised over that Mercury Sag. And again, I still am holding out hope that Mercury learns some lessons through their retrograde cycle. So maybe Mercury and Sag isn't as chaotic as always. So I don't know. I wonder about like the the private accomplishment that will never like be celebrated publicly of like the thing I didn't say that I could have said, and I want a cookie for what I didn't say that I could have said.
Oh, there we go. I like that take. I like that take a lot. All right. Well, happy holidays. Happy New Year. I guess I'll be saying that again for the January month ahead forecast that we do. January is an exciting month. There's some really unusual,
Hmm.
interesting, exciting alignments happening in January. So hope that you come back and listen for that month. And Sarah, any closing words for 2025?
Just gratitude for the people
Mm.
that have been journeying with us as we've done these forecasts and wanting to invite people to kind of follow the stars and look up and look out at the same time with us. Just
Mm.
appreciating the people that have been with us and appreciating you. I'm
Likewise.
thankful for you,
Oh,
Lindsay.
thank you, Sarah. Likewise. Yeah, I'm so grateful for you and for, yeah, our community, which is, I think, a small but mighty group of weirdos. And, and I mean that in the most complimentary way. So thank you all, and we will see you next month.